The tag team division in WWE is an absolute abortion. It is really bad. And the men's division is really, really bad because the men don't even get the sympathy that the women get. Now, when it comes to the female division, the women's division, tag team titles, at least people care enough to complain, right? Like people complain when the women don't get enough shine, when they don't get main events, and when their contenders get beat and all that stupid stuff. People actually complain. Like there's been a lot of talk about the women's tag team titles. There has been none about what's going on with the men's tag team titles. In fact, the only talk that people have had is, I don't like the segments between the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders, which is pretty much every killjoy that watches wrestling, which is 99% of the internet audience that hates everything anyway. And if they could have been wrestling, they still would have hated it. It just doesn't matter. But the men's division suffers from the same problems the women's division has, except to a greater degree, I would say, because the men's division have to deal with something the women's division don't really have, and that is men's division being fed to the tag division being fed to the singles division. This is not something that you really see that often in the women's division. I mean, it happened once or twice. And when the Kabuki Warriors were the champions, Asuka, and Kairi Sane lost. They didn't. I don't think they lost like a handicap match or anything like that. But I'm pretty sure they lost matches to like Asuka, not Charlotte or Becky Lynch or something like that. But it's not a recurring problem like it is in the men's division, where you see just because we're pushing one guy, he has to beat the tag team champions or a former tag team champions, and he just has to beat them. Like the June 8th episode of Raw, just because Lashley is getting a title shot at Backlash on June the 14th, well, he's going to beat the number one contenders who are who had just beaten the tag team champions about, a couple of weeks prior in the Viking Raiders. Well, he's just going to beat them. Well, I'm sure he didn't beat them by himself, okay? Yes, it was a tag team match with him and MVP. Yes, him and MVP are partners, they're buddies and homeboys, but they're not in that tag team range. Lashley is still a singles wrestler. Okay, you're not telling me that, okay, now they've beaten the Viking Raiders, so now they're going to feud with the Street Profits. No, they're not. They beat the Viking Raiders, so Lashley can look credible in fighting Drew McIntyre for the title. That is that's completely sublimating the men's tag team division to the singles division. Why isn't there no separation between the two? Why did that match even need to happen? That match didn't need to happen. Okay, now a lot of people are mad that the Street Profits are even doing these segments with the Viking Raiders, and I can agree with that. Because I'm okay with that, but I also need them to actually be doing something as far as wrestling for the titles and stuff like that. Defending the titles, or at least while they're doing what they're doing with the Viking Raiders, build up other contenders. You could have put some effort towards building up Cedric Alexander and Ricochet. Who? Have they even been on TV? They ain't been on TV in like a month. Okay, they've been wrestling on main event, which I guess is fine if that's what they want to do. But come on. Like literally, come on. You brought these guys together as a tag team. They wrestled like 3 or 4 matches, looked really impressive. They got beat by 2 guys I've never seen. I've never seen them before. Haven't seen them since. And now we're just stuck. We're stuck. We're stuck with nothing. There's no tag team division on Raw. There's just the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders. There's no tag teams. Oh, you may look at me and say, what about Angel Garza and Andrade? I was told they were a tag team. Oh, did you not see them fighting on that same episode of Raw, June 8th? Angel Garza and Andrade slapping each other in the face, kicking each other, knocking each other down, all type of shit. I could buy them as a tag team. I had no problem with that. But fuck, now they're fighting. What is going on? Why? What was the purpose? What was the purpose of putting them together? Oh, but you may say, what about Austin Theory and Buddy Murphy? Or Murphy, I'm sorry. Murphy and Austin Theory. Ha, that's a tag team. Is it? They lost to Humberto Carrillo and Astro Black. Same episode of Raw. They got beat. Nobody's allowed to get any momentum. The Street Profits don't even have any momentum. There's nothing, absolutely nothing going on in the tag team division on Raw, except these very entertaining skits that feature the Street Profits' personalities. And I guess if you're trying to get them over as personalities, which they are, then that's all that matters. But they're the tag team champions. They kind of should be defending the tag team titles. But whatever. I'm not a Graps dude. Like, as far as, well, I am a Graps dude. But I'm just saying, like, you don't need to have them wrestle every week. But they need to be visible. And that's the good thing about the vignettes. So it makes them visible. But at the same time, if they're not actually defending the titles that they have, what is the point? And I just know it, that the first time that the Street Profits defend the titles probably will be the Raw after Backlash, and they'll probably just lose them. And that'll just probably be it. And they'll probably go back to, doing whatever. I mean, the Street Profits have been hampered a lot by the lack of crowd. And that's one of the things that that's kind of out of WWE's hands, is that the Street Profits, and we'll get to the New Day in a minute, but the Street Profits are a very very energetic, very crowd-friendly team, and they kind of need that energy in order for it to work. Now, the Street Profits are a good team, period, but they feed off the crowd. That's really what makes their matches bigger, than really what they would be otherwise. And they've been hampered without the crowd. And that's really the weakness of the Street Profits right there, is that they're good, but they're great in front of the audience. There is no audience now. There's nobody to do the red solo cups with. There's nobody for them to dance with. There's nobody to feed into what they're doing and to give them that energy. And the crowd that we have now, which is basically just NXT, Performance Center, those people, they're not a real crowd. They're going to cheer and boo and whatever. They're not going to give that genuine reaction that, the Street Profits are usually feed off of. And that's just basically killing the division, because the only thing you can do at this point is take the titles off the Street Profits and put them on literally anyone else. But then again, you have the same problem. You beat the Street Profits, then what? You got nothing. You got no. And then you take the only over team and you kill them. And yes, WWE released Gallows and Anderson. They were, and FTR. They released some legit tag teams over the during the pandemic or whatever. They got rid of them. But whatever, WWE does not care about the tag team division. It's just that simple. Okay, it's just they don't care. But as bad as Raw is, somehow SmackDown is actually worse. Okay, so the SmackDown tag team division consists of the New Day, and that's it. Why is that the case? Because political discrimination means that the Forgotten Sons are done. The push they were about to get out of here because Jackson Riker said, "Hey, I like the president." All of a sudden, they're not allowed to get pushed. So that's it for them. Lucha House Party, where are they? I don't know. I like Lucha House Party. I love Lucha House Party. Where did they go? Who knows? Disappeared. They vanished into thin air. One of the Usos is injured. Legit problem. Can't do nothing about that. Usos are gone. Miz and Morrison. Oh, yeah, that's great. They were a fantastic tag team, or at least they're a tag team. Well, they're wrestling a singles wrestler. Here we go with this shit again. Now, Backlash is going to be Braun Strowman versus two guys. Why? Why couldn't you just pick one of them and then make him look credible by having him wrestle for the title and then his partner just being in his corner? I mean, do we really have to go so overboard with the whole... And look, man, Miz and Morrison were just the tag team champions, okay? Literally just the tag team champions not too long ago. And it's just, nothing matters. Nothing matters. SmackDown is worse than Raw because the New Day aren't even featured. For starters, the New Day is stale as fuck. They have literally been doing the same thing for 3 years. Now, the New Day gimmick is like 8 years old. They've been flinging pancakes and swirling their hips for 3 years. Okay, it's beyond tired. And look, I'm not saying that the New Day need to break up. I'm just saying they need to do something different. Okay, and I know that Xavier Woods has been hurt for a while, but that doesn't mean anything. Like, you need to take them out of that division and push one of them. Like, you could have did that, right? You could have had Miz and Morrison as the tag team champions. You could have had Big E versus Braun Strowman for the Universal title. And if you feel like Miz nor Morrison is a physical threat, you could have had Big E do it. And anyway, you could have had, Big E and Braun Strowman and Lashley and Drew McIntyre. People want Big E to have a singles push, so why not? It doesn't cost you anything. You've got to pay the guy regardless of what he do. But that would be too much like right. That would mean actually giving a shit about, doing something different. They don't want to do anything different. They just want to have, but this is the crazy thing, right? Tag team matches are just gimmick matches, and once you kind of understand that, like, the division has been elevated, but even in most companies that have tag team wrestling, there's always been this throwing together two singles guys into a tag team, and that's your tag team champions. Very rarely have you had your long-term meaningful tag, your Midnight Express, your Rock and Roll Express, your Rockers, your Heart Foundation. Yeah, it seems like if you go back in the annals of history and look at tag team wrestling, that's what tag team wrestling has always been. But tag team wrestling, for the most part, is your Stings and Lex Lugers. It is your, two powerhouse baby faces thrown together in a tag team, and that's your tag team champions. A guy who we don't want to, he needs to have a title, or he needs to be at the top of the card, so we just want to make him a tag team champion. And I'm cool with that booking too. Like, if you want to have just two random guys who just happen to be cool and now they're the tag team champs, because really, what is tag team? Like, you could say, well, they're tag team specialists, like, say the Rock and Roll Express or the Rockers, but you could also have two magnificent solo wrestlers who are, okay, now they're going to work together to be the tag team champions. But ultimately, man, WWE has tried and not tried, because usually anytime somebody gets some momentum, they kill it. So it does not matter. The tag team division is absolute dog shit. And even NXT tag team division is suffering, because the whole Pete Dunne getting stuck over in England and kind of killed their tag team division, and they don't push Imperium. Imperium has been visible. They've done promos and stuff like that, and they're actually going to defend the titles on June the 16th. I think that's June the 16th episode of NXT. But it's not at the same level that the tag team championships of NXT used to be. So it's across all three brands that the tag team division has just been absolute dog shit. And it's just, nobody cares. It's just a gimmick. Tag team matches are just petty gimmicks. It's not a main event thing in the WWE. And, part of it is the audience's fault for not really getting behind tag teams. And part of it is the WWE for not really having any tag teams or pushing them. Historically, especially during the heyday of WWE, the heyday of the WWE's tag team championships was actually in the 80s. When you add actual tag teams like the Rockers and the Bulldogs and the Killer Bees and the Heart Foundation and Demolition, and then the Legion of Doom came in the early 90s, I think it was. And you had the Steiner Brothers, and the Smoking Guns, and then it kind of just fell off a fucking cliff. Like, right around the time Bulldog and Owen were thrown together for the tag team championships, or was it Owen Hart and Yokozuna? It was right around that time that the tag team titles just fell off of a fucking cliff. And then people say, well, what about Edge and Christian and the Dudley Boys? Like, people didn't care about those fucking teams. They cared about those fucking matches. They cared about TLC. Most people could not tell you another fucking Hardy Boys match that didn't involve a ladder. Most people couldn't tell you a goddamn Dudley Boys match that didn't involve a ladder. And the same thing about Edge and Christian. If it didn't involve a ladder, find me a fucking good Edge and Christian match that didn't involve a ladder. Okay? That's just kind of how people is. It's a gimmick. They do it for gimmicks. It is not a focal point of the brand. And that's been the WWE thing since at least 1991. Okay, at least 1991. And I think we need to stop expecting too much from it. But it is frustrating because you do have these talented dudes. I think New Day is very talented. I think the Street Profits are very talented. I think Imperium is actually quite talented. But there's no focus on them. There's no focus at all because people care more about, it's easier to make somebody care about one person than to care about two. And then when you have people, who you got the looming threat of injury all the time, that makes tag team wrestling very entertaining. It could be over the top. It could be more fun. It's 4 players in the match. You've had a good tag team match, it's 4 players. But now that wrestling is on TV, tag team matches are an attraction. They're an attraction for TV. In the Attitude Era kind of set that standard. We used to have, Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels as the tag team champions. Like, why? Like that's really all tag team wrestling is now, is throw together 2 powerhouse baby faces, and they win, they lose, whatever, and they blow them out of proportion to the point where the tag team titles themselves actually don't matter. And it's been that way for a long time. And I think that, ultimately, after talking about the Street Profits and the New Day, I'm just, riffing. I think we need to stop caring so much about the tag team championships. WWE doesn't give a shit. To be quite honest, AEW doesn't give a shit either. While we're, they're not doing the tag team revival that they think they are, considering, their tag team champions are 2 singles acts. Just like, I said WWE will have 2 powerhouse baby faces as a tag team. That's all AEW has. And they've been the only tag team champions though so far. So, I don't know. Tag team wrestling is absolutely suffering. And I don't really care. I like tag teams. I like tag team wrestling. But if you're not going to put any emphasis on it, you're not going to have any real tag teams, I'm going to divest from it. And that's pretty much what I've gotten. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. I'll talk to you guys later.